Hola, mujeres. Today's episode is focused on financial stability. We are chatting with special guest Nicole Stanley, who is the founder and head financial coach at Arise Financial Coaching. After battling crippling financial anxiety in her early 20s, Nicole decided to enroll in her first personal finance course, which changed the course of her life. She went from $30,000 in debt to building her family of four's net worth to over $250,000 at the age of 27, which brought joy, confidence, and freedom into her life without money or anxiety holding her back. So today, Nicole is sharing more about her passion for coaching other women to have the same financial outcome as her. So thank you so much for being here today with us, Nicole. We can't really wait to learn more about your story and your services.
I'm so excited to be here.
All right. So because we have a lot of questions for you, and we want to learn and we want the audience to understand a little bit about the topic today, we're going to go ahead and ask you the first question, which is basically tell us a little more about yourself. I know I read a little bit about you, with the intro, but what about like more of your background and maybe your why and inspiration as to why you created this financial coaching business?
Yeah, so I grew up in a Puerto Rican American household. My dad was really hardworking. He was a software engineer in the early 2000s. And even though he was doing great on paper and we were upper middle class, financial stress was very, very prevalent in my house growing up. And that was kind of one of the first moments or times when I became aware that it wasn't always about the career you had or how much money you made, but it was rather the decisions you made with that money that would show how stressed you would be or how calm you would be about finances. So, fast forward to when I was getting married, that was when things started to really show up that I had internalized this belief and experience that money equaled stress. So, the whole time that I was engaged to my soon to be husband, we were just stressed about finances. And I had a breaking point when I was doing the budget for our wedding for like the millionth time. And the numbers were not adding, right? Like my husband at the time was making 28,000 a year. I mean, he was my fiance. This was in the year 2015. And I remember I had my first panic attack about money. And I looked at him and said, like, if we can't afford this wedding where like our friends are, you know, cater or our friends are doing the cake and doing the bartending, like how the heck are we going to afford a life? And I noticed that like I had this exciting time that I was moving into, but financial stress really clouded most of that. So it was around then that we said, okay, we want to make a change. And that was when we enrolled in our first personal finance course. And that course really changed the trajectory of our life. It was the first time I had learned that I could become better with money. It was the first time I learned that I could gain financial skills, that no matter how much money I was able to make, I could still be smart with the money that I had. And I didn't have to, subscribe to that story that stress was the only way. So we became total personal finance nerds. I loved reading and books and spreadsheets and all the things. And that was how we ended up paying off $30,000 worth of debt in 10 months on 56,000 a year. And then we started investing. We bought our first home at that time. We did a live-in flip and we were able to build our family's net worth to over $250,000 by age 27 with two kids. And we were also able to save our first six figures in the stock market for retirement so that we knew that even if we never invested another dollar, we would still be able to retire comfortably. And watching my dad kind of talk about the death of the American dream and how he was going to work till the day he died as a young kid, that felt like a huge freedom to me. And it was then that I started to realize like not everybody was as passionate about personal finance. So before I knew that financial coaching was an industry or that people, were starting these types of businesses, I just started helping friends and family for free for years because I just wanted to see people get excited about their personal finances, start to achieve financial goals that they had a difficult time achieving on their own. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, my husband, we were single income at the time, and he was a youth minister. So we weren't like rolling in the bucks or anything. He got furloughed at the beginning of COVID, and I had been helping friends and family, and we kind of looked at each other from across the table and said, well, hey, what if I like started charging people? And what if I learned how to be a better financial coach and got training and, stuff like that? And that's when I launched Arise Financial Coaching in 2020. And since then, we've been able to help over 650 clients become more confident with their money, save money. And now we have a mighty team of 3, including myself, who are working to help women say goodbye to the stressful relationship with money that they may have experienced in the past and start to create a new story of success and confidence.
Hey, Nicole, I love that. So it's like, oh my gosh. And I'm loving how you're saying all of that because it's so true. So you're going to get tired of hearing me say this, like, oh, family business, but you don't know that about me. But I'm looked at as this, I grew up, hey, you grew up in a business, you should know so much about money. Um, and the more I grow and the more I'm on Instagram, it's like I have learned more on Instagram about finances than growing up in a family business because there's
Wow.
so many different, and also I would say is not coming from a family of wealth. Like when your parents are the ones building the wealth, they're learning the things in the country that they weren't born in. They don't know the rules, they don't know the tax laws. So it's like, okay, yes, I've been able to see my parents build wealth with rental. Like they have a conventional business, like brick and mortar, and then they have the rental income with over like 16 properties now. But then still, I'm like, okay, but where does the money go? And it's like, I just love of how you had that moment also with your dad. You're like, okay, we're looked as we have money, but then where is the money, right? So so I just love of how I don't feel alone on that one. I love identifying myself when we have guests of like, hey, I don't feel alone. So thank you for sharing that. But when it comes into that, it's like you usually hear about financial advisors, right? And I love how there's so many coaches out there in different fields. But John and I were intrigued, like, oh, financial coach. So it would be awesome to know, like, what is financial coaching? I know it was born from the first financial course you and your husband took, and then during the pandemic, like, oh, I'm already a coach. I'm already doing this. So that's like the best thing. Like, I know you're a badass coach because you're already doing it without charging. I could just imagine now when you're actually charging. So yeah, what is financial coaching, and can you share a little bit about how that process went about?
Yeah, so financial coaching is a new industry, like I would say in the past 15, 20 years. And I would say it's the gap that the financial industry has always had, but hasn't known how to fix. So, for example, many people know about financial advising, and financial advising is someone who is licensed to tell you how to invest your money or to invest your money for you. And that is a really great thing that we have, right? Because not everybody's able to learn about investing on their own. However, in the past, financial advisors used to, because they made their money only on the amount of money they managed, they would only take clientele at a certain investment level. So you would need, 250 invested to get started with certain advisors, or you needed a portfolio already. And so it often lent itself to people who already had money growing more money, but not really helping the average person break in and start building wealth for their family, start building security for their family. And even still, there are, now that financial advisors are open to taking people without, a ton invested already, there's the question of, well, where do I find the money to invest, right? Over 80% of Americans are feeling financial stress. I think it's 70% of Americans don't have enough in their bank account to be able to cover an emergency over $400 without having to use a credit card. There's a really big gap between people who are feeling like they don't have a ton of money. How do we get them to needing an advisor, right? Like, an advisor is not there to help you figure out how you can save money, how you can increase your income, how you can, optimize your expenses. That's not their job. Their job is to help you invest. And then you also have people like CPAs, which are amazing because they help you with taxes. Taxes is a really big part of your financial strategy as well. But the question is, everything about or not the question, but the problem is that everything about your money is not about taxes. And so financial coaches are the only people in the industry who get to meet you where you are right now, the bills you have due today, and say, okay, how are we going to help you make progress from where you are today to where you are tomorrow? Not because we're trying to sell you some sort of financial product or something of that nature, which is often where the conflict of interest can come into the financial world, but people who are paid hourly to help you become the best version of yourself financially. And that, I think, is what so many people need to get them from the people who don't have money to invest, stuck in debt, feeling stressed. Even, I don't even like to say that they're not making enough money, because you're going to see a lot of high earners in America feeling as though they're living almost paycheck to paycheck because the money's coming in and it's going out just as fast, right? And so financial coaches are the people who can help break that cycle for you, because while financial information is incredible, right? Like, one of the things I always tell people is there is no shortage of financial information. Money advice is the second most popular thing on the internet. Anything about personal finance, you can find out for free online with a Google search. But the difference between knowing something and actually doing it are chasm. It's a huge chasm, right? Like, how many of us know what we should be doing with our money, right? It's not a problem of knowledge, it's a problem of action. Very similar to that of like a health coach, right? Or a fitness coach. Most people know what it might take to get healthy, to get fit, but doing it is a totally different story. And that's where financial coaches come in and say, hey, let's help you come up with a lifestyle or a plan for your money that gets you really excited and still has you paying off your debt and works for your personality, your marriage, your life. And I think that that's really powerful and what a lot of people need, rather than just generic advice that they can find online.
I love that you explained the difference, because I know that a lot of people, like including myself, have financial advisors, right? And I guess to your point, when we did meet with our financial advisor, like my husband and I, to kind of think about like, oh, because one of the questions that they always ask every meeting we have is, okay, how are you tracking for retirement? And even though I understand that that's really important, I'm still at a point in my life that I'm like, I know I have a 401k, like we're saving for that, but there's other things that we're really interested in investing on, like also like, family vacations, like my kids are still little and I want to be able to do all those things. And that's not necessarily what they focus on. It's more about life insurance, which I know it's really important, right? We have it for a reason, and we want to make sure that it's there for whenever, if anything happens, it's there for support for our kids, for whatever the reason may be. But that all of that, it's based on like future, like when you're older, like what if this happens, like all of that, it's based on that. But nothing that we've talked about with my advisor is, it's based on like, okay, what about now? Like, what about the things that I really want to do with my kids now? Like, it's never that conversation. So I love that you basically explained the difference. And I love that, I'm assuming through that coaching process, there's that point, right? There's that portion where you can talk about the things that you want to do in the moment with the money that you're earning, but also, future. So at the same time doing doing
Yeah.
both, I guess.
Yeah. And that's what happens too when you are not focused on selling a product, which is often the problem with the financial industry, is you can actually be focused on the person in front of you and what they need and what is going to help them be successful, because your retirement is only a part of your financial life. You're bringing up some other ones, right? Like your lifestyle today, your relationship with your partner, what you and your kids are able to do. All of those things have to work together. And what some people don't often think about is a coach can help you find the money to invest more, right? Like that's where a financial advisor isn't able to help, because they're not in the day to day with you. They can't see, what expenses maybe is this family like overspending on that they don't even know, right? Like it's something like their insurance that they're paying 4 or 5 times the average American, and they just don't know yet, right? Like, there's so much that can be done. And I think that that's why the financial industry is changing, because I think people are hungry to get financial help that they need, not just like, oh, well, this is the financial help that I'm used to having or my parents had. Therefore, that's all I'm going to do. That can make a really big change in someone's life.
Especially if you want to plan for the future, for the present, and also if you have actual current debt, right? Because that's also something that's happening to a lot of Americans. They want to be able to pay that,
Yeah.
plan for the present, right? But also for the future. So like, how do you do all of that in the with the income that you have at the
Yeah.
moment? So I love that. So my next question though to you, just because we focus a lot about like empowering other women, so Latina women specifically, why do you think it's important for women to understand how to manage their finances though?
So I believe that a woman who doesn't have control over her finances is a woman who doesn't have control over their life. Like, frankly, there's no way to say it. Money is how we make choices in our life. It's where we live, where we send our kids to school, how we dress, how we spend our free time. Money touches everything. Now, money isn't everything, but if you are a woman who either a few things. The first is, says, oh, my husband deals with that, or say, oh, it's not that important to me. I believe that you're missing out on a lot of agency that you could be having in your life, right? And I think as women, particularly in my household growing up, I don't know if you guys ever felt this, but in my Puerto Rican household, there's kind of this general like distaste for wealthy people, and it was like, oh, must be nice, right? Or this view kind of that if somebody had money that meant that they wronged somebody, or you don't talk about money in certain ways. Like, it was just it's a taboo topic, even if it comes up a lot. And so I think a lot of Latina women feel that way too. And I think we can see that in a variety of ways. We see it in some of the wage gaps between women and men, as well as between different cultures of women. Like, we see that I believe the Latin woman makes either last or second to last of all the women in America. I should know that stat. There's a variety of factors. There's education, there's opportunity, but there's also, the types of jobs we are okay with. So I think that a woman who doesn't have control over her money ultimately is missing out on choices they can have in their life. And that's not to say that every woman should be, obsessed with money, but money is the type of thing that if you don't know the rules of the game, there's absolutely no way that you can accidentally win, right? We often say that like getting into debt is very easy and it can happen kind of unconsciously, but unfortunately getting out of debt can't happen the same way, right? Like, making financial progress isn't something that many people can accidentally do unless we're inheriting a ton of money, which is also not a huge thing in the Latin American community. And so really, I think it's important for all women, because we've learned, it was only in the 70s that women were able to get a credit card or a bank account without their husband in America. And so that's only 50 years ago. We are pretty new to the game, that it's more important than ever that women understand the rules of the game, understand how they can increase their success with their finances. Because even if you're starting really small, if you have a small income, there are still things that you can do to improve your financial life. And I think that's the beauty of knowing financial skills and learning them, is that you're able to use them to improve your situation for yourself and your family. So I think that a lot of women might say things like money isn't everything, or that isn't that important to me, or my husband's better at that stuff. But statistically, women are actually better investors than men. And many women, even if they say their husbands are the ones who manage the money, many women are the ones who are managing the household finances, which means they're actually controlling 80% of the family's financial future. So if you want to have more choices in your life, investing and learning how to manage your money is one of the best things you can do.
I love what you just said because it's a perfect segue to what we have in mind. Because some of us are in different aspects in our life. Some of us are like, oh, we have checked the box with everything we meet with our financial advisor, or I've gone on Google and I've researched, I have everything that I need. I'm on track. But there's always a time that, you're in different stages in your life. So there could be opportunities for you to keep making more money, helping that money work for you, right? Or we could be on the other side that like I am clueless. So with that said, it's like, what would you say is the first step for us to realize that we need that we need like the support and tools to manage our finances?
Yeah, I love the question of like, what is the first thing? Because everybody actually has the first step. And we do this in coaching, but you can also do this on your own. And we call that getting complete and total clarity of where you stand right now financially. So, not, a lot of people when they start their financial journey, they'll be like, I'm just going to make a budget, right? So they print out a printable online, they pull out a spreadsheet, and they kind of start throwing numbers down of what feels right, right? Like they know a couple of their bills and they'll be like, well, I should spend X amount on eating out, when in reality, they spend way more than that on eating out. They kind of come up with these fake numbers that feel really good to see on paper. And they say, okay, I'm just going to do this, right? And they've totally skipped getting clarity on where they are today. And I think people do that because people just want to move forward. But if you don't have clarity over how you spend your money today, it's very hard to make a plan that's actually going to work. Because if I could make you a plan on paper where I say, hey, I'd love for you to spend X amount on eating out. But if you regularly spend 4 times that amount, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually fit that mold. And so there's a lot of power in seeing your money as you're spending it and reflecting on that non-judgmentally. So the getting complete clarity is around seeing how much you spend, how much comes in, what your expenses are, and knowing what that looks like on average. So one of the things that we do with our clients is we don't have them just look at like, oh, what did you spend last month or what are you going to spend this month? But we kind of have them think about their average year. Like, okay, between like Christmas and Halloween and all of the different holidays, how are you, like what type of gift giver are you? Are you somebody that goes like all out? Are you buying people iPads for everything? Are you somebody who just does homemade gifts, right? There's a huge difference between how somebody is a gift giver and how much money they need on average to save for gifts and holiday. Like that's an area that I think is, one of those things where someone could be spending. I've had clients and seen them spending $750 a month, other clients spending $100 a month, right? On average. And so there's all these different categories of your lifestyle that I think are really important to bring into that plan because you're able to see things clearly, right? Looking at your debt, looking at your income, looking at your spending. And so that's the first thing we do with clients. And I think it's the first step to anyone who wants to make a change, because if you can look at where you are clearly right now, right? Not who you want to be, not who you think you should be, but rather where you are now with a non-judgmental stance, you're going to be able to start to come up with some solutions. Like that's typically what happens for people. And that's, I think, the best way to start.
So I think a great segue to ask you on, we noticed that you have a roadmap to saving 6 figures. um, but I would ask, like, can you expand on that? But also when you're not making 6 figures yourself. So like for people that don't make $100,000 a year, like how would you be able to save 6 figures?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that question because a lot of people really view saving very connected to what they make when it's actually kind of totally different things. So, a good analogy is like thinking about if you have a bucket, right? And let's say that bucket fills up with water at 100K. A lot of people have a hole or a few holes in their bucket and they don't realize it, right? Um, but they keep saying, I need more water. Get me more water, right? Like this bucket isn't filling up. I just need more water. And that's kind of the trap of like, I always need to make more money. And to be able to get to where I want to be, where actually you can use much less water if there's no holes in your bucket, right? And so what I have the roadmap for is I think it's important for people to know kind of which steps first you should be focused on and feel confident in those steps, because often everybody tries to do everything at once. So maybe there's like 500 different holes, you're also trying to fill in water, you're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, you're taking out a second job, you're focusing everywhere, you're paying extra on 5 different debts at a time. The roadmap is there to help show, okay, if you're at the beginning here, what's the one thing I have to focus on? Where can I put my, limited amount of financial energy towards one thing? And at the beginning, maybe it's getting clarity over your finances. After that, it's focused on optimizing your finances, right? Then it's pre-funding some of your lifestyle expenses. Then it's automating your money and it's paying off debt, right? Like, how can I focus on one thing at a time, one hole at a time, so that the amount of water I need actually goes down because I'm being really efficient with my plan. I think it's incredible how much money comes into our lives. And, over years, we often think about like what I make per year versus what I've made over the past 10 years. So even if you're not someone who makes 6 figures, let's say you make $50,000 a year, which is considered now under the average for the average American. When I was 10 years ago, that was the average 55, and that's what we were making at the time. But over 10 years, right? 50,000 is $250,000 that's come through your life, right? And so while there's not 6 figures in there, there is a large percentage that we can find, or a small percentage that we can start to grow on, right? So I kind of like to bring that more exciting goal at the end, like the 6-figure goal, but knowing that to save your first 6 figures, you have to save your first $100, right? And it's that same skill of saving $100 that becomes saving 1,000 and saving 2,000 and then 5,000, right? It builds on itself.
I love that of how you say the same habits, same steps to save $100 is to save 100K. And I briefly heard you mention automate your money, one of those steps in the roadmap. And this wasn't one of the questions that we were thinking about, but I don't know. Can you explain a little bit more on automation of your money? Because to me, it has a lot to do with the saving. Like for me, it's like I've been doing a lot of different direct deposits from my bank account, something I wasn't doing. Like I've been working in corporate for the past 7 years. I'm like, why haven't I been doing this? Like it's so easy when it's out of sight, out of touch, like on this separate bank account that you really don't look at. Um, but to me, that's been like a something that to me like with automation is helping me save. But I want to hear from you, like when you touched on automate, without going too much into your roadmap, because I want to want to keep that as part of the value added that you add. But anyways, can you just go into a little bit of the automation of your money?
Yeah, I think that automation is a powerful thing that many people don't realize they can use to make their financial life easier. And I kind of stumbled upon this because, I have ADHD. And so a lot of the budgeting methods that are like track every expense and have like 1 million categories and then go out and get your cash envelopes and then, refill those cash envelopes and then reconcile your spreadsheet. Like, oh my God, it makes sense to me why like 80% of people don't want to budget or say that budgeting doesn't work for them, because the traditional forms of budgeting are very time intensive. They're very complicated and overwhelming for many people. So I'm sure a lot
Mhm.
of listeners have made a budget before, but kind of fallen off the wagon because let's be real, they're a lot of work. And a budget is a powerful tool because it's telling your money where to go. But what often happens is because the strategies are so overwhelming, people stop doing it. And so what I did in my, kind of quest to learn more about personal finance, help it be easier for my clients, is I created an automated budgeting system so that people could make a budget once, right? And then they only had to tweak it over time because they set up automations that made their plan real. Does that make sense? So, a very similar example to that would be most Americans don't realize that they save thousands of dollars every single year without thinking because it's automatically deducted from their paycheck for taxes. And so, if we can apply those same principles of, okay, what are the things we want to do? Not just invest in our retirement, but even things like save for a Disney vacation or save for a family vacation. How can I automate that? Right? So that my goals are happening, even if I'm not feeling motivated to put that money into savings, because that's often the hardest part is finding the time and feeling safe enough to be able to transfer money to savings. Because one of the worst things is when you transfer money to savings and you feel like you have to pull it right back out again. And so I think that's why having that clarity over how much money you have, what your expenses are, what your goals are, what's the one thing we're trying to accomplish this month or this quarter with our money, and we have automations that make that happen. And so, if I could invite people who are listening right now, like if you are somebody who budgets and you're overwhelmed or you don't keep up with it, look up automated systems because that can often be the missing link for people to make their plans a reality.
Okay, awesome. I know you said look up automated system, but can you share at least one of what that is?
Yeah. So one of my favorite automations that I help all my clients set up is we set up automated savings. So if you've heard of the phrase sinking funds, have you heard of a sinking fund before?
I've heard of it, but go into it.
Okay. So a sinking fund is a fund that you contribute to every single month that is actually for spending or for an expense. Many people think that they have to make a budget that's just for this month, right? Like, let's just take that gifts and holiday as an example. Like, okay, it's October. So, or it's September. What am I going to spend on gifts and holiday? And it's like, well, not that much. There's not that many holidays in the month of October. But what's around the corner, right? We've got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And then all of a sudden it's November and we look at our budgets and say, okay, well, how am I going to find $500 for Christmas? Right. And then we say, oh, budgeting doesn't work. Right. But if you need $600 or $1,200 for the way that you celebrate Christmas, it's a lot easier to actually put $100 in savings every month automatically than it is to find $1,200 at the end of the year. And so what we do with our clients is we use high yield savings accounts at banks like Ally or Capital One. They have great features. You get great, little perks for putting your money in there. They let you open up multiple savings accounts and you set a purpose for your savings that is about these, big whammies, things like car expenses, things like medical, things like pet expenses, gifts and holiday, right? The things that we always act surprised about, but we know, right? We know we're going to need money for medical. We know we're going to need money because we go and visit our parents every single year for vacation. And so instead of trying to find the money that month, let's build it into a monthly allocation so that the money's always there. That's one of the most powerful things that you can do with your budget is figure out that average and put it on autopilot.
Love it. All right, I'm going to give kudos to myself because it kind of sounds a little bit of what I did. Like I opened up a separate bank account from the one that I have so that because I would fall into that trap. I would save. I'm like, oh, well, I have that little savings, so I could buy this or I could, pay off my credit card because I have that money there. But now to me, it has really helped. If you put in a high yield savings account, it's not in the same bank account that you use. I mean, it's easy to transfer, but anyways, well, thank you so much for sharing that because I did not come and stumble upon that until this year. I mean, last year. Um, but I realized that we went a little bit into the 5-minute money moves, which is it's something that we can get from your website, guys. So you can go to Arise. At the end, I'm sure Nicole will tell us everything on where to follow. But make sure you go to Nicole's Instagram or website, Arise Financial Coaching, and you could get your free 5-minute making money moves. But we're gonna get to hear it here firsthand from Nicole, so you can share some of those tips with us.
Yeah, so we created 5-minute money moves because I know that making progress with your money can feel really daunting. And so we wanted to take 5 things that you can do in 5 minutes to really set yourself up for financial success. So we help people in 5 minutes, figure out what their total net worth is, have it set up to track automatically for the rest of their life, open up a high yield savings account if they haven't before, and some fun things inside of there, because it is possible to make huge progress with your money, even if you're short on time. And it's one of those things that pays you back immensely, right? Like when you give yourself that 5 minutes to make a budget or plan for your spending or open up the account you've been putting off, right? There's kind of this myth of like the perfect time, right? Like, when is the right time? Oh, later, oh, later, oh, later. And we just help make it actionable today.
Okay, awesome. So I did download it, of course. And I know there's some things on there. So it's like for us, if we have questions, is that when your coach, is that when we go in and talk more into you on you providing your services, or is there more extra things that we can find on your website?
Yeah. So a few of the things we do. So we have the 5 minute money moves guide. We have the roadmap to save your first 6 figures. We also have a lot of free budgeting and free investing classes for women. We try to do them, if not monthly, at least quarterly, so that you can get help to improve your money. And we also have blogs and free resources. And so we always tell people that if you are somebody who can take the information and implement it on your own, do that, right? But there's still a lot of people that may want more help with their specific situation. And that might be a good time to reach out to a financial coach. We always tell people that you need financial coaching if you're somebody who has tried the budgeting, read the books, done the stuff, everything that's available for free, and you still feel like you're not seeing your savings grow, you're not seeing your debt go down, right? There's something else that you feel like you're spinning your wheels. That's the time to reach out to a coach, because we can help you get off that cycle of feeling stuck. And not everybody needs that, right? Like, I am not the type of person who says, oh, you can't do it on your own. No way. So many people can do it. And that's why we have all of those free resources for those of you who can take the information and implement it. But if you're looking for more help to get better progress, consider scheduling a free call with us, and we can talk with you about your situation and see if coaching is a fit and point you in the right direction.
I love that. It's like I already want to be able to call you guys, but I'm going to
Heck
read
yeah.
off the list because I want people to actually go on and download it because it's really interesting because I have questions on here by myself before I give it off to Jonna to ask you before we wrap it up. But guys, on the 5 minute money moves, like day one, I know this is high yield savings account. And thank you, Nicole, for going a little bit into that. Day two is calculating your net worth using Empower. Like it's like that was interesting to me. Like I never thought, you always go and Google someone that's famous and you look up their net worth, but you never think of like I've never thought of myself, what is my net worth? So
Mm-hmm.
just I'm reading this to you guys because I really want you guys to go to Arise Financial Coaching because it's quite unique the things on here. Day three is, 401k, unclaimed.org. But I'm going to stop there at day three because I want you to really go on and download it because that's already just up to day three. And there's a couple more buckets on there going on to day five and some extra stuff on there. So I don't know. I am really glad that we stumbled and found each other on Instagram. So the power of social media. But Jonna, can you add on like, I don't know, final thoughts? Because I feel like I've been just rambling on because I get passionate and excited.
No, I was just going to ask Nicole because she mentioned all the free, resources and the courses that people can take either monthly or quarterly that are available on your website. But when people do realize that they want the actual coaching and reach out to you, can you expand a little bit about like what that process looks like? So I think you mentioned they can reach out to you and do kind of like a free consultation.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So
that's kind of what that's where you decide whether or not it's like coaching is the right path, or
Yeah.
if they may need something different. So can you walk through how that looks like so that people understand, like, okay, if I reach out, this is what's going to happen?
Yeah. So if you are somebody who's listening right now and you feel like your financial stress is taking a bigger part of your life, your energy than you want, and you want to find out more about coaching, you can do one of two things. The first, I would say, is you can go to our website and you can just book a discovery call. And you will get to do a discovery call with either me or my other coach, Annie. We also have an application that we have you fill out before, because we usually have a wait list for our coaching. But because, we're only two people, so we can only onboard so many people every single month, one-on-one. And, we're just passionate about giving people our full energy, right? And from that call, we just have a conversation about your money. And my goal as a coach is not to, sell everybody my services, because my services aren't for everyone. Like, I may not even be the right coach for you, right? Or I'm the perfect coach for you. And so we actually don't sell any of our products online where you can just buy them, because we want to make sure that every person who comes into one of our programs is the right person, that is, the right problems that we know we can help you solve, right? Because there's nothing worse than thinking you're going to do something or thinking it's going to be one way and it's another. So we love to start with a conversation so that we can get to know you, but also you can get to know us, and you can ask us questions about your specific situation and what we would do and how we can help and really make the right choice for you. Then let's say that you decide, or we figure out together, like, oh, coaching is something that would be helpful to you. We make a recommendation as, which one of our programs we think could benefit you most. So we have three typical ways that people work with us. There is a one-time session, which we call our Empower session. Our Empower session is a 2 to 3 hour intensive session where we go through everything in your finances and we make a plan together that's going to get you to where you want to go in the next 6 months to a year. So we find out what's the real thing holding you back, what are the real numbers here, how can we make a plan that you feel excited about? What are the things you're not seeing? And make you a detailed action list as to, like, okay, there's a million things you could do with your money to improve your money. But for you and your life, if you do these next 10 things, right, in this order, not a different order, right, this is how we're going to see the most success. And that's our Empower session. We love that, right? The other option is that some people look at that plan and they say, oh my God, like, this plan is awesome, but I'm never going to do it. Or, how can I get more coaching along the way? Because it's not just the what do I need to do, but it's like getting my husband on board, right? And it's helping me create new strategies with budgeting because I dread it, or helping me build up the courage to, like, finally ask for a raise at work. Like, how do I prep for that, right? How do I find out my market value? How do I advocate for myself in a way that doesn't make me look like a bitch, right? Like, how do I do these things to make it happen? How do I make this debt strategy happen? And those are the people that we would consider continued coaching with, and figure out, okay, some sort of either 90-day, 6-month plan that's going to help you build the skills. And most people go into something like that. And then the last thing we have is we have a lower investment group program where we have a course component with live coaching. So we answer questions, like you can ask us questions 24/7, and we'll answer questions about your specific situation. And we do group calls together. And that's a way for anyone, no matter where you're starting, no matter your budget, you can get inside of this program. And we were really passionate about how can we make sure that, like, as many people as possible can get help, even if we can't be meeting one-on-one, every other week. So those are the three ways that we work with people. And we usually find the best way to find out if this is for you is to fill out an application or book a free call, and we can have a chat about where you are and where you want to go.
Love it. Thank you for walking us through that, because I know a lot of our audience, given that they're, Latinos, we didn't grow up with, in our household, our parents like teaching us about finances. And I'm assuming it's because they themselves were in a
Yeah.
household that also, taught them how to leverage their finances or be, financially stable. So it's good for us to understand and know, because I know a lot of people are very disconnected to what that looks like, or understanding what that is, essentially, given that our families are not necessarily you know,
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that stuff
yeah,
and not as educated as they should be, right?
right.
So I love that you share that information. So I guess for those people that are actually interested in reaching out to you and understanding whether or not they need your services, and want to continue on with you, what is the best way for them to contact you? I know you have your Arise Financial Coaching website. How would they go and find you?
Yeah, if you just head to our website, you can book a free call right there. There's a button, I think, on the first page, and you can book a call. You can fill out an application, and we're also really active on Instagram and such. So send us a DM. We're people. We love chatting with people, and so there are a few ways you can get in touch with us. And typically, if you have a question though about your finances, I'm going to suggest for us to hop on a call because I mean a lot of people might send me like a question out of the blue to be like, should I pay off debt or should I do this? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I love that you're asking, but also I don't know anything about you, girl. Like we got to talk and then I can help give you better advice for your situation, right? If financial advice was generic, we'd all be successful, right? And so I say that if you're somebody who's even considering it, book a call. Let's chat.
I love that. Thank you so much. Well, our time is to an end. I love this conversation, Nicole. Thank you so much for just sharing all your knowledge and your power. I'm excited for all the listeners to just go out there. And the Instagram is, Nicole, if you could say, if we're going to add it in our link, but your Instagram handle is?
It's arise.financial.coaching. We post tons of free information about finances that is relevant to the time, the news, all of that. If you're just looking for free advice, come and follow us on TikTok, Instagram. We're on Threads as well, pretty active on there at arise.financial.coaching.
Thank you, Nicole. So, everyone listening, this is my wrap up of call to action, but that is the number one call to action. Just click on the link here to follow Nicole on Arise Financial Coaching on all of those different social media platforms. So you get different ones to choose from on your favorites. But I would say is book that discovery call. And if you can, it's like get clarity on where you stand now without any judges so that you could come to Nicole or to her other business partner and say, like, this is how I feel. This is where in my mindset what how I feel about where I stand. So that discovery call could go smooth for you. Like I really want you to sit down, reflect on where you think that you stand so that once you book that discovery call, it goes a lot more smoother for you. Because if you're like me, you're gonna be everywhere. I'm always everywhere. um, so please go on there and please go and download the 5 minute making money because that will give you a head start to see like all the awesome things that you'll be getting from all the different services that Nicole shared. So thank you so much for tuning in. Y hasta la próxima. Ciao.